Hey everybody, we are live. Super excited to be here with you for the second part of this series about getting started with freelancing. So the other day we did part one, which was so successful. It already got people so much results. I can see in the chat right now, Pyric is so excited to see that you said you already took action and within one day got a client. So happy. There were a lot of people who were seeing results by taking action on the stuff on the first part. If you didn't see it, we'll link to it below this video. But today we're going to talk about what you did after you hustled, you got yourself a client, and now you need to take it to the next level. You need to talk to them about money. So that's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to talk about pricing, proposals, negotiation. There's going to be so much good stuff on today's stream. I'm not looking at the comments right now as I'll do the presentation for you, but Alex is handling the comments. If you have questions, he's going to put them out in a doc, and at the end, we're probably going to be here for 1 hour, and after I'll do the presentation, we'll do some Q&A, so you can drop the comments or questions over there, and we'll get to some of them at the end. So I hope you're excited because I'm going to drop tons of knowledge on you peeps, so make sure you're taking notes. There's going to be a lot of stuff here. All right, let me jump into my presentation and we'll get started. I'm super excited. Are you excited? If you're excited, put in the chat like, woo, yes, I'm excited. Where you're from in the world. Yeah, let me know what's going on with you. In the meanwhile, let me get started. As I said, on today's agenda, I'm going to talk pricing, I'm going to talk negotiation, and we're going to talk proposals. Now, the first question that you'll get when you have somebody interested a lot of times is going to be, so how much do you charge for whatever it is that you're doing? How much for a logo? How much for a website? So how much is it? And this is where most new freelancers get stuck because they're not really sure what to say. And at that point, usually they're ridiculously undercharging themselves and not charging enough. And so let's talk about money, how to come up with the right price. Everybody's asking other designers, so how much do you charge? Because they're or Googling or trying to figure out like what do other people charge. As if it matters. It does matter to know these kind of market rates, but I want to give you kind of a different framework that's going to be super practical about how you're going to think about your prices. Okay, and by the way, just remember, if you saw the first part, you're going to start small and you're going to make moves to increase and grow as you go along. You're probably not going to, if this is your first project, you're not going to charge $10,000. Now that we got this off, let's talk about what price you should start with and how to increase that along the way. So the biggest mistake people make is that they make the assumption that, a price is a function of how long it took to make something, right? Because you're going to say a price, well, this costs like $1,000. And you think that the response, and sometimes maybe from certain clients, the response can be something like, what? You charge $10,000 for that? Like how? But you can do that in an hour or something like that. To which there are a lot of answers, right? But I just want to explain why this is kind of a false logic, because let's assume that doing something takes me 50 hours, all right? Designing a logo is going to take me 50 hours, all right? So as I go along and I do this for year after year after year, I get better at it, and instead of 50 hours, it takes me 30 hours, then it takes me 20 hours. Now the question is, should I actually drop my prices as I get better? And of course, the answer is no. You should actually charge more if you can do it faster. There's a joke that basically, I don't remember, it's like Picasso goes to the park. He has a woman says, hey, can you draw my portrait? He's like sketching up something in like a second, gives it to her and tells her that's $1,000. And she's like, what? But you only worked on this for like 10 seconds. It took you 10 seconds to make. And he said, yes, but it took me years to be able to do that in 10 seconds. And that's basically shows you that the function of time doesn't mean anything. And so that's the first thing that you need to understand, right? It's not, price is a function of value, okay? How much people value what they make. And there's a lot of aspects to that. So how can we like, let me give you an example of that. So check out this jeans, all right? So here are two pairs of jeans. One of them is Diesel. One of them is from ASOS. One costs $170. One costs $14. They're like, how long did it take to make them? How much did the materials cost? The same. They're both manufactured in the same Chinese factory. Okay, there's completely no difference in the cost and the materials of making these products. So why one of them is worth 10 times more than the other one? And the question is pretty obvious, because some people value brands, and brand is just one example of what people value, and they're willing to pay much, much more for that. Another example of something that people value is comfort, right? Why do people take, you know how much it costs to fly business class? You know, it doesn't even cost 2 times. It's like 5 or 10 times more than a regular plane ticket. Why? Just because it's a little bit more convenient. So, but they're still getting to the same place. So some people think, well, it's not worth paying 10 times more. But some people think it does. This comfort is worth 10 times more. So for different people, they value different things, and they're willing to pay for those different things. That's where you need to understand that what you need to focus on is value. All right? So that's the first thing. But the other thing that you need to understand about value, and here you can see, this is a screenshot I took a couple of days ago of the Apple stock. All right? Value goes up and down. All right, so what you can see here is the stock price, which basically represents the value of the company. Now, nothing changed during the last year in, the company itself. It still manufactures iPhones and MacBooks, and you can like it or hate it, but let's assume that the quality stays the same. The company didn't drop dramatically or improve dramatically, but how the market values that thing can go up and down. And you need to understand, because that's also relevant to your work, right? The value of your work or the skills that you have can change. And let me tell you a story to make that clear. So I don't know how many of you are young and how many of you are older in our industry, but when I got started, Flash was a really, really cool software to design kind of interactive experiences and websites. Now, that was like the cool thing. Now, there was a very complicated aspect to it. You could learn how to code with a specific let me put my camera on, with a specific kind of coding language called ActionScript and ActionScript 2. And I was heavily invested. I really liked this, and I was heavily invested. I took courses to learn how to code with ActionScript 2, and I spent a lot of time learning how to be a master in Flash so that I can build websites. And for a while there, I was like really good building Flash websites, and I could that's the first jobs that I did in my freelancing careers. But then what happened? What happened was in 2007, Steve Jobs decided the new iPhones are not going to support Flash because he thought this was a bad technology, and it's going to slow down the iPhones. And also it was a kind of a proprietary technology of Apple and of Adobe, and so he didn't want to support that. And so basically by making Apple or iPhones not support Flash, basically it killed that software because nobody wanted their website to not be supported on iPhone, and literally that software and company and technology went to the trash up until the point where, like a couple of years ago, Adobe decided to discontinue this software, and now nobody cares about Flash anymore. Why am I telling you this? Because the fact that I was really good at Flash and I spent a lot of time learning that, and I had a very valuable skill. That valuable skill right now is not so valuable. Okay, so you need to know what you're selling, and the quality and the value of what you're doing might change. So you need to be smart. You need to understand what's valuable right now and learn it. I'm talking a lot about Webflow because I think Webflow right now is something that's really, really high value. It might change in 5-10 years, but you need to understand what's valuable right now. All right, let's continue. All right, so now let's get practical and talk about, okay, so we know price is a function of value. We know it changes. Like, how do we set this price? Okay, how do we find out what's the actual price? Now, and the truth is, the price is always set up by the two sides, because every transaction, we're in a marketplace and somebody wants to sell something and somebody wants to buy something, and the price is set by, you can call it supply and demand, but how much the person that's selling is willing to sell it for and how much the person buying it. There's basically a combination of those two factors. So let me draw that to you to make it clear. So let's assume there is kind of a price range, right? From a very, very low price to a very, very high price. Now for you, there's actually a big range of prices that would be good for you, right? Of course, you would love to make a lot of money for your work, but there's somewhere that is, I would say, kind of your minimum point where below that, you're going to say, you know what? I don't want to do this. Now, it's different for different people. Now, for example, you might say, like, for this project, if they're going to pay me less than whatever, $100, I'm not going to do this because I have better things to do with my time. But anything above that, of course, I'd love to get $10,000. But anything actually above $100 is actually good for me. So you understand there's actually a range of prices, and that's defined by your minimum price that you're willing to work with up until, infinity, a lot of money. Now, the client has also a range, but that range is actually upside down, right? So the client actually have a maximum price that they're willing to pay. But of course, they like to pay less than that because they're a business, and like everybody else, they're trying to reduce their expenses. And that's a completely normal logic, by the way. When you're buying stuff, you're trying to pay less because we're all trying to save money. So basically, the client has kind of a maximum price point that they're not willing to pay more than that. I mean, if it costs more than that, they'll find an alternative, or they're not going to do it at all because, it's too expensive. But everything below that is an acceptable range for them. So now you can see that actually there's a gap. There's not a gap. There's kind of a place where, and actually a big range where both of you are going to be happy, okay? And that's what's called deal range, okay? So any price within this deal range would make both of you happy, okay? Anything outside of that deal range, actually, it's not going to happen, all right? Because if if your minimum price for a certain project, let's say it's $1,000, below $1,000, you're just not going to do it. But the client is not willing to pay more than $100. In this case, there's just no deal. There's not going to be any deal here possible. It's actually negotiating here is a waste of time because there's no possible deal. He's not going to pay, or they're not going to pay more than $100. You're not going to work for less than $1,000. There's just no deal here, okay? But in case there is a gap, and usually in most cases there's, again, not a gap, a parallel, how do you say that word? When they're overlap, all right? So if there's an overlap, then we can negotiate. And in that negotiation, now here's the thing here. It's kind of like a poker. Nobody's really going to tell the client. I'm not going to tell my clients my minimum price range because I want more. My clients are not going to tell me their maximum range, or their maximum point, because they want a better deal than that. Everybody knows that we're going to play this game, and so no side is actually revealing the cards. And what actually the role of negotiation in this phase is to actually try to maximum. You're going to try to push to the higher end of the deal range. They're going to try to push it down to the lower side of the deal range, and that's where the dance of negotiation happens, okay? But again, anything in between is going to make both of you happy and is going to make a deal happen. So this is kind of the framework, okay? So now let's think about what the practical ways are from, being asked, so how much do you charge for this? How much does it cost, to actually closing a deal? So the first step is you need to understand your acceptable range. Okay, how can you negotiate? How can you even talk about the price if you don't know what price will make you happy and what price won't make you happy? So the first thing is, and we're going to talk about this in a second about how to do this, but you need to do your homework and you need to decide on what's your minimum point that below it you're not even going to do the project. Okay. Now, the second thing that you need to do is, because we're playing poker here, you need to try to figure out what's the client acceptable range, and you need to assume what's their maximum point, okay? Why? Because you don't want to ask for something that's above that, okay? Because then there's no deal. And that's where most designers fail, because they negotiate themselves down because they think, no, they're not going to pay $1,000. There's not going to be a deal. Maybe 500? No, they're not going to go for that. So you see, you negotiate with yourself. Before the client even get to negotiate with you, you negotiate with yourself and you lower your price. You end up with $100 because you think that's what's within their acceptable range. But if you'll do your homework properly, and we'll talk in a second about how to do this, you might realize that it's higher than where you think it is, and it usually is higher. So the second part of this process is you actually have to do your homework and assume or guess where their range is. And the third part is you negotiate, okay? If you're both within the range, each is trying to pull to its own direction, and whoever is best wins. But to be very honest, you both win because anything that's within the acceptable range, is a win for both of you, right? You're both basically happy with it, okay? Okay, so let's talk about how to find your price range. Let me drink some water, and you can tell me how much fun you're having while I'm drinking water in the chat. All right. So how do you come up with your price range? So the first thing is you need to ask yourself, how long would this take you to complete? Now, yes, we just said earlier that the value is not a function of how long it takes you to complete. However, on your end, you are basically giving or investing your time, right? Some people, to manufacture clothes, you need to invest money to buy the materials, but the materials or the stuff that you invest is your time. So you need to understand how big is the investment that you're going to do here. Now, if you're just starting out as a freelancer, you might not really know this, and it's okay, but make an assumption and track that down, and you'll improve as you go along. You will assume, I guess this is going to take me 10 hours, and then you track it. Oh no, it actually took me 30, or it actually took me 7. And as you'll go along, if you keep track of the number and the time, you'll get better at estimating how long this would take. Now, the second thing is you need to understand what's actually the value of your time. Okay? Now, this is something that you need to think, and it's very individual to where you are based in the world and what's your alternatives, right? I mean, if I can make, for example, right, if I can make more money, or let's say the minimum wage, I don't know what the minimum wage is in the US, but let's say the minimum wage is, I don't know what, $12, $13, $14, I don't know. And you can make $14 at McDonald's for sure, okay? You might want to say, well, I'm not going to do this for less than $14 an hour because otherwise, why would I work so hard? I can go to McDonald's and get the money for sure. Now, I'm just giving you kind of a logic that you might think. Of course, you might not think like I will go to McDonald's, and maybe you don't have that alternative, but everybody has some kind of a value for their time. You might do kind of a more elaborate calculation that says, well, if I want to pay my rent, that means I need that much money, and if I can work on this for so many hours, basically, and do this calculation and come up with, I have to make $30 per hour. So if this is going to take, 10 hours, I have to at least make $300 because otherwise I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. And again, this is something that you need to be really, really honest with yourself, because the thing is, a lot of designers will say, well, I want $1,000 for the project, and then let's say the client says, well, I'm only willing to pay $500, and then the designer will say, well, okay, I'll take $500, and then they'll complain, and then they'll hate on their client, and so forth and so forth. But the truth of the matter is, the fact that they accepted this project at $500 means that it's worth their while at $500. And if they would admit it to themselves earlier before going into the negotiation, they wouldn't be frustrated. They'll say, well, I wish I could get more, but I'm happy with $500 because $500 is worth my time. So yeah, that's just kind of general life advice. Don't be whiny. Like, think about this before and realize that maybe it's valuable for you at $500 as well. All right? So another kind of brain, I forgot how to call this, but kind of like mental exercise you can do is ask yourself just, if the price was $500, would I do it? And you can say yes or no. You know what? Sometimes you might realize that even if the project was no money involved, even if it was for free, you would do it, right? Because there are other things beside money. There's portfolio, there's, experience, there's having them in your network. There's other things. So if the truth is you would do this work for free, okay, you can try, ask for 1,000, 2,000. But if they say, if they bring it down to zero, again, don't complain, because admit it to yourself that it's still a good deal if you work for free. And sometimes it is a good deal when you work for free. So don't complain. You need to think, what's your alternative, right? And I've gave the example of going to work for McDonald's, for example. But as a family man, I do know that I also value time that I'm not working, because I want to be with my family. I don't want to work 24/7. I don't want to work my weekends. And so I need to make the evaluation of, all right, if I take this project that I'm going to work on the weekend, all right, I'm not going to lose my McDonald's job, right? But I'm going to lose my time with my family. So how much is that worth to me? How much do I need to get to be happy about missing time with my family? So ask yourself the tough questions, and again, be honest with yourself. And as I've mentioned, there are other things that are valuable besides money: experience, portfolio, testimonials, referrals. All of these things are also worthwhile, okay? I know there's a cliche, which is somewhat true, where sleazy clients would say, you can work for exposure, which is usually a lie. But if you're honest, if you honestly think that there's something for you in there, you can do this, and you don't have to feel sorry for yourself. So now that you understand what's your price point, it's time to start doing the investigative work of trying to do the research and come up with, understanding the client's price range. Now, this is done both by you doing research, as in on the internet, but also by talking to the clients. So a lot of the first conversation with the clients, when they're telling you about the project, you'll be asking them questions with the goal of really uncovering the real true value for them, okay? So the first thing that you want to really understand is, what are they looking to gain with this project, okay? We need a new logo. Why do you need a new logo? Why is it your priority right now, instead of going and doing sales call? Why are you talking to me right now? Why are you investing time and effort and perhaps money on this project? Because you're looking to gain something. Let's try and understand what it is you're trying to gain. You're trying to improve your sales. You're trying to improve your customer experience. What is that worth to you? Okay, you can start asking those questions to really understand, why are they looking? Because of course they're looking to gain something, otherwise they wouldn't waste their time. So what is it that they're trying to gain? Now, what is their alternative? What happens if they don't do this project, or if they don't do this project with you? Okay, so in some cases, if they don't work with you, they work with somebody else. If they don't work with you, they work with a different company. If they don't work with you, they won't do the project at all. What happens if they work with somebody else? Are they going to charge them more? Are they going to charge them less? Are they going to do crappier work? Are they going to do better work? And again, I suggest that you really, you can actually ask that. What other alternatives are you considering at the moment? Because the false assumption that most designers have is that, well, if I don't get this, they can go to somebody else who can do this for cheaper or something like this. But a lot of times this is not the case. And if you remember what we talked about in the part 1 here, is the people that you're in the position right now to talk to, perhaps they know you, they like you, they trust you, they want to work with you, and maybe they don't know and like and trust somebody else right now. So the alternative of going to look somebody who they don't know, who they don't have a recommendation on, that's expensive, because that's taking risk, and they might not want to do this. So don't kind of underestimate what is the actual cost of them not working with you. Remember, they're spending time talking to you. That means they want to make this work. To assume nobody wants to waste their time, so assume good intentions, and they want to make this work. Of course, it's okay if they negotiate. It's okay if they value different things than you, but assume that they want to make this work. So try and understand, what is the cost of the alternative. And again, cost is not only money. It's comfort. It's time. It's a lot of different things. Now, another factor which might help you understand is how much money do they have as a company and how much they're going to spend. So if they are, a company that has 10 employees, for example, they already have a budget and they're doing sales. Otherwise, they won't be able to pay salary for these employees. So they have money. Maybe they already have a marketing budget or something like that. If, on the other hand, this is kind of your uncle entrepreneur who has a dream of starting a business, but he doesn't have any money or any proof that it can happen, and he's just doing it by getting other people, to hustle for them, then maybe they don't even have money. And so you need to consider, whether you want to work with them. But you can understand by the fact that by looking at the operation they're running, you can try to understand their budget. And you can also ask, so what is your budget for the project, or how much would you like to spend? However, remember, they have a different goal than you. They're trying to, decrease their spending. So even if they have a budget of $10,000, they might say, well, we're looking to spend $5,000 because they're checking. They don't know. Maybe they can get it for $5,000. So why say initially that they are willing to go up to, $10,000? The other thing around this is that even if they say they have $10,000 and they are saying the truth, they have budgeted $10,000 for the project. Remember that when people fall in love with things, they are tending to spend more than they initially budget for it. And this from, looking for a place to live, or even going to the supermarket. You go in trying to, having a budget or a list of things that you need, but then you saw something, oh, I must have this, I'll take this and I'll take that. But because we as people, we tend to overspend on things that we really want. So if you present your offer in a very sexy way, you can get them to spend actually more than what they initially thought they're going to spend. Okay, so at this point, right, you've done all these calculations, right? And so what's your price, and you have an assumption about what's their price. So at this point in your talking, somebody is going to say the price first. And it's probably going to be something like this. Either they're going to ask you, so how much do you charge for this? And you're going to reply with a number. Or maybe you're going to ask them, so what is your budget for the project? And they're going to say a number. In any case, the minute that a number was said, that's actually when the negotiation starts. Because, again, assume that nobody's really exposing their minimum or maximum point. So now the dance actually begins. Okay, so let's talk about this dance of negotiation. So, first of all, I've mentioned this before, but it's very important to keep in mind. Remember that the goal of everybody here is to close a deal, and everybody wants to be happy, and otherwise we wouldn't be wasting our time. So nobody's trying to screw you, or nobody's trying to, take advantage of you. Otherwise, assume that they are good people and they do want to, they don't want you to go out of business. They want you to be able to keep supporting them if they need you, and everybody understands that everybody needs to make money. However, everybody has limitations they're trying to pull, but assume good intentions. Now, remember, this is kind of a poker, so it is a little bit of kind of like who's going to show their cards first. Are you going to be the one who says the number first, or the other person is going to say, and you're going to ask questions to uncover, what their alternative, what their cost is, and they're going to do the same to you because that's how the game is played. Now, the thing is, each side, or at least it's kind of a best practice, is trying to get the other side to say the price first, okay? And that's why they're always asking you, probably on the first call, so how much do you charge for this? Because what they hope would happen, and does happen most of the times, is that you're going to negotiate against yourself because you're going to say, oh, I don't want to say a price that's too high because then they might reject me, right? And there's not going to be a deal. So let me lower the price and lower the price and lower the price. And you start off with a low price, which is good for them. What's going to happen if you are going to ask them to state the price first? They're going to do the same thing. They're going to go negotiate themselves. They're going to say, well, obviously, I don't want to play a lot, but I can't say like a too low of a number, because otherwise he's going to walk away. He's not going to be interested in doing the project. So maybe I'll offer this number, or maybe a little bit higher. And so if you get them to say first, maybe they're actually going to say a number that's much higher than what you are planning to ask for. And so there's kind of an advantage for the person who gets the other one to state the price first. Okay, so it's not, nothing's wrong is going to happen, and just want you to remember that they're trying to get you to say the price first because they expect that you to negotiate with yourself and lower that price. Okay, so here's a key point which took me years and years to learn, which is, I wish there was this live stream when I was starting out, which is never to start with your minimum price. Okay, never start it, because everybody's going to assume that there's going to be this negotiation game. Okay, and so here's what happened when I was getting started. When I was getting started, somebody asked me, how much do you want for the project? And I would say my minimum price. And by minimum price, I mean, I would do the calculation. I would say, okay, so this is worth $1,000 for me. Okay, however, I'm not going to ask for more because it's not fair. Okay, it's not fair. And I want what's fair because I'm a good person, right? So I told them $1,000. What happened? They assumed, okay, just like any business negotiation, he said a number, and now we're going to do the negotiation game. So they were like, no, not 1,000, 800. And I would get very pissed because I would assume they're disrespecting me, disrespecting my work, and I was like, fuck it. I'm just not going to do this, right? They disrespect me. I don't want to work with them. It's not, I made my calculation and it's worth $1,000. So if they want 800, it's not worth my time, and I would walk away. I would break the deal. But that's very stupid. If I would only start off with a higher number, if I would say it's $2,000 and they would say, no, we can only pay 1,500, okay, or 1,000, I would say, okay, 1,000, and I would be happy, okay, and both sides would be happy. They were like, yes, we got like a major discount. We got 50% discount. I was like, yes, I got what I wanted. And so remember, you can't start with your minimum because you'll have no wiggle room to play this negotiation game, which is going to happen. Do not assume that nobody's going to negotiate, okay? So, however, when you do reduce your price, which is okay because it's part of this game and you want to find kind of a fair point, try to get them to give something in return. Okay, so you're like, okay, so you want to pay less. I respect that. Okay, you have, it's been a tough year for all of us. So let's think about how to make this happen. So if you're lowering the price, what can I get in return? And you can get a lot of things in return. You can get better payment terms. They can pay up front. You can have a longer deadline. You can have fewer iterations, or a lot of things. You can ask them to get a testimonial if you're lowering the price. You can ask for a lot of things. So it's okay to do this barter, this negotiation of give and take. You want a discount? Sure, give me something in return. But you assume that, we want to work through this together. We want to solve this, and we want to make sure that we have a deal that makes everybody happy. Now, as I said, if you do the work and if you really know your true minimum, and you're not going to work below your true minimum because that's really your true minimum, then you can't lose. Because whatever price is going to happen that's within your range, it's actually going to be great. And if it's outside of your range, then it's not, there's nothing to cry about because it was never a possible deal. There was never a possible deal. I mean, if I charge the minimum price for a project that I do would be $10,000. When somebody comes to me with a budget of $500, I'm not like, oh, this client is such a bad client. They're cheap ass. They don't care about design and stuff like that. Whatever. No, I'm just telling them, look, here's Wix. Go and do it yourself. Okay, this is because you're not even a potential client. There was never a possible deal for us, and I'm not mad at them that they don't have $10,000 to invest. Because, people are different, their situation is different, their business is different. I don't hate on them, all right? It's just, it was never supposed to be, it was never a possible deal, okay? It's like, whatever. I was going to say, if I go to buy, to ask how much does a private jet cost, and they're telling me like a few millions, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to buy it. I can't pay a few million. They're like, oh, Ron, this cheap ass. He doesn't know that our private jets are so good, and that how can he not, how doesn't he value the work that we put in our private jets? Amazing, all right? And they might be amazing. I just don't have the money for that, all right? So that's it. Now, you got to understand that there's no kind of right or wrong answer to the how much should you charge, okay? And you're going to start somewhere low because your confidence is low, and because you don't have many alternatives, and because maybe the value of your time is low. That's the truth situation. But if you'll do what I said, and every time you'll try to push a little higher, and you'll do a better research, and you'll ask, and you'll maybe sometimes hear answers like, imagine that you did your calculation and you decided that it's worth doing it for $500. And then you were talking with your clients, you asked them, so what's your budget? And he said $2,000. Amazing. You did the project for $2,000, 4 times what you thought you should or would be willing to do this project. Now you did this project and you did amazing work, and they were so happy, and now they're referring you to all their friends. Now, to be honest, when they're going to ask you how much to charge, you are comfortably going to say $2,000 because you already did it for $2,000. You know that the client was willing to pay $2,000. You delivered high quality work and they were happy with it for $2,000. So now $2,000 is kind of like your new standard. And that's how you play it, because the next time afterward you were going to say, okay, so if $2,000 is not a problem and I'm not even getting rejections, let's try $5,000. And that's how you go slowly, but you grow and you move up to the next level. Now, this is a game. I know that's hard to look at it as a game because most times, that's how you pay rent, okay? And it's kind of a poker game that at some point it's very risky to lose, right? Because you need that money. But you need to understand that if you're not going to change your mindset and understand that this is a game and enjoy the game and learn the rules of the game and practice the game, then you're always going to stay stuck at that fear level of, oh my God, I'm going to not be able to pay my rent, and you won't be able to grow. So realize it's a game and try to have fun with the game. Right. Water break, and then we'll talk about proposals. How you all doing here? I'm trying to drink with the thing closed. All right. Looks like you're having fun here. I hope you are. I hope you're learning. I hope you're taking notes. All right, let's continue. So let's talk about proposals. What are proposals? What are they for? What do we do proposals for? So a lot of times after you'll have a discussion with the clients and they're like, okay, so how much does it cost? And you discuss the price and everything. You'll want to send a proposal, which is basically a paper that states everything that you talked about, for them to sign before you get started. If you're a junior, maybe you're not doing this. It's very important to do this to align expectations, okay? To know that you're both talking about the same thing. So the goal of the proposal is to sum up what you've discussed and to help the client make a decision. Sometimes they need to consult with other people or they need to think about the conversation. So having that kind of a document to look at and think about this really, really help them. It clarifies all the terms, when payment should be, when the work is going to be delivered, what's included, what's not included, and it provides kind of also a legal framework. I'll talk a little bit more about the legal aspects of it later on, but basically it's mostly to align expectations, okay? So here's basically the structure of my proposal. There's a lot of people that are doing a lot of fancy things with like decks and stuff like that. I try to keep my proposals super simple, sometimes even in an email, but very, very simple and just like one pager. Nobody likes to read big documents, legal documents, that kind of stuff. So here's how I structure it. I start off with an introduction. That's usually a paragraph or two about the project and what we're doing here. And I write it in a way that they that shows that I understood what the project is about and what is the goal and why they're doing the project. Okay, not just I will build a website for the company. That's okay. That doesn't show that you understand why they're doing it and you understand their goals and you understand, what they're trying to do here. That you're actually a partner in joining them on their mission to try to solve this big problem. Okay, so that's introduction. The second paragraph, I would write, why should you work with me? And that sometimes is bullet points and sometimes it's a paragraph. And basically, I try to think about the specific client that I'm talking with. And I'm trying to think what skill set or experiences do I have that are relevant to him that is going to make me stand out. So I'll just give you an example. I was working with a client in the classical music industry. So I just wrote, as a child, I used to play multiple music instruments, and I really love and passionate about music, and so it would be an honor for me to work on this project with you. Now, it's got nothing to do with my design skill or my professional experience, but it's important for them on an emotional level to know that you are the right person. If I am interested in music and I understand this world because I used to play musical instrument and so forth, and I'm passionate about this kind of gives me an edge over everybody else who's just a professional and doesn't really care about their mission. Remember, those are people who are living, they've started this company because they're super passionate about this, and you want to show them that you're together with them. Of course, that you can also state, professional things like I have worked with a similar company or I did something similar in the past or something like that. The next thing in the proposal is basically stating the process and the deliverables, which meaning what's going to happen. How are we going to work? So the first stage, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and basically how long each stage of the process is going to look like and what you're going to get at each stage of the project. And then you're going to talk about price. Sometimes I put the price at the end, and sometimes I price each stage of the process depending on what we do. I'll show you an example proposal in a second. And then we're going to talk about the next steps. Now, next steps, think about this as calls to action, right? If you know something about web design or designs in general, you need to design a call to action which basically tells the user what should they do next, all right? And this is basically something like bullet points that says, when you finish reading this, what you should do is you should sign this document and then you should send me the money and then we should set a date for the kickoff date. It just literally tells them in a very, very simple and non-confusing way what to do. Because people need for you to tell them what to do. Otherwise, they're going to be, let me think about this or something, right? They have a lot of things to do. So you need to clearly tell them what to do next. The last thing is terms, and this is kind of basic legal terms. Let me show you a proposal example, and then we can work through this. All right. So I'm showing you a real proposal. This was for a client that's called Lucia, that I worked with in 2017. All right, so this was for a marketing website and also kind of like a design system. So let's see how it's structured. So this is 2 pages. I designed this on InDesign, which is just basic layout so they can print this, and this is how it stays. So here, overview, Lucia is looking to upgrade its marketing website, total brand visibility to look bigger and better, create more trust and confidence with its customer and increase signups. While adding new product offering, messaging needs to be clear and straightforward to keep high conversion rate. So that's pretty clear, all right? And again, we're not talking about the website, we're talking about the goals, what they're trying to do here. Now here, I do not have a why me, but because I know the founder of the company from previous projects, so they already like me. So here I'm breaking down the phases, all right? So phase 1, marketing, website, and brand. I'm describing what's going to happen. We'll strategize the content and architecture for the marketing website. In parallel, we'll explore different visual languages, illustration, 3D photos. We'll choose the direction for the visual look. After approving the wireframes and visual direction, we'll design a new website. Deliverables for this phase. New responsive web design for all marketing website pages, including pages for different markets. Updated brand assets, logo, icon, colors, typography, design system assets for further projects. Working collaboration with developer, and web product, which is something else that they have. Schedule, 11 weeks. Fees, 800,000. That's new Israeli shekels, plus VAT if paid from Israel. That's by 80,000. 80,000, it's 3.5. So it's basically $22,000 for this phase. And then we have product upgrade. That's designing their dashboard and search engine. That was something really small. So it's 1 week, 5,000 shekels. And then for the marketing assets, basically that was kind of optional. So I broke it down as a table. So email templates, 1,000 because maybe they want multiple. Banner templates, 1,000. Video, depending on style. Video, usually when I do videos, I outsource this. So they need to get a different proposal for the video. Campaign landing page, 7,000 per page. In optional development, here I said, if you wish to decrease workload for your development team and outsource, I offered basically to develop this on Webflow, but they didn't took this and they chose to develop it themselves, in this case, on WordPress, and they were very sorry about that choice, but all right. Terms, 50% down payment. So this is kind of like the legal terms, right? 50% down payment before we're starting to work. And then 25% after design presentation, and then 25% after final deliveries. So that's kind of a normal way that I structure my terms. Prices do not include font licensing or images, because sometimes that costs extra. That includes 3 rounds of iterations on each phase, and after that, it's an hourly rate of 600 NIS. So this is kind of a high hourly rate, and it's basically designed that way to scare them off, because I don't like to work on an hourly rate. So I try to scare them off with a higher hourly rate so that they'll bring in, or they'll push all their iterations within these 3 rounds. All prices do not include VAT. Payments is due 10 days after invoice. This is kind of like normal stuff. And then this is important. Intellectual ownership of the design will be fully transferred to Lucia upon final payment. Basically what that means is if they're not paying me the whole money, I still owns the intellectual property and they can't use this, or if they use this, I can sue them. But it's basically something that means you only own this work and you can only use it after you paid the whole money. So this is an example of a real proposal. How do you do this? How do you create those proposals? So first of all, email is an option, and that's the simplest, actually. And to be honest, you might think, well, maybe it's not super professional, but to be honest, I did a lot of proposals, or at least price negotiations, stuff like that, in email, and it's okay as long as you discuss all of these things, all the details. Sometimes, especially if it's sometimes repeating customers, or if they coming back again, or if it's super simple, I might do that in an email. The other simple thing is either doing it on Google Doc or using something like InDesign that I did, and then you can use a free service like DocuSign. I think I'm using DocuSign, and it's free, and you can upload the PDF there and send them a link, and they're signing it, and it's legally binding, so that's great. Another tool that you can use is Prospero. If you don't know, Prospero was a tool that I actually built. It was our company for 2 or 3 years. Go prospero.com. No, go prospero.com. All right, yeah. So this is a proposal tool that we created. We actually sold this company 2 years ago, but it will help you create these online responsive, and it's actually built on the template that I just showed you. So it's pretty cool. If you want to invest a little bit, it's really a cool product. And then besides that, there are other tools like Bonsai or &Co, which also have some free plans. I never use them, but you can check them out. They're also legit. All right, so a word on the legal stuff. Some people send both proposal and a contract that is kind of like more longer and more exhaustive. I don't do this. I don't know if to say that it's the smart thing or not, but I really am a believer that at the end of the day, I'm not going to sue my clients. It's just too complicated. It takes so much time and so much effort, and it's probably not worth my time to sue my clients. So the real reason of sending it is to kind of get them committed and to align expectations, and to know that most people who sign a document and know that they are legally obliged, the chance of them breaking this kind of agreement is much, much smaller. So I do this to kind of enforce this, even though at the end of the day, I'm probably not going to sue them. But, you might think differently, or you should consult a lawyer. I'm not obviously a lawyer. Maybe there are terms that I forgot, but I've been working with the very short list of terms that I just showed you. And I don't know, maybe I just worked with good clients, but I had no problems with that. And with that said, I think we can jump into the Q&A now. So let's jump into it. And we're already almost an hour into it. I hope you had a good time. Let me know in the comments, did you learn something? Was it useful for you? All right, I'm going to jump to Q&A. And remember, by the way, there's going to be part 3 that we're going to do next week, or depending on where you watch it, maybe we already did it, and you can find the links in the description. On the next session, we're going to talk about how to deliver a good service, how to put the system so that you can move your freelance to full-time. So that's going to be on the next session. And now let's jump into the questions. So I'm going to see here the questions that Alex did for me, and let's try them. All right. TLDRS, do you think that the market is oversaturated? It seems to me that everyone is getting into web design, and like soon everybody will do it, or the price will be so low that you won't be able to. So what I think is this. I think that a lot of the markets are pyramid based, which means there's a lot at the bottom, but not a lot at the top. And it's also true for the clients. So there's a lot of low-paying clients and not a lot of, or less high-paying great client. But what I will tell you is this. The top of the pyramid is not saturated. The top of the pyramid is people are craving and looking for good designers. They can't find good designers. None of the good designers are available. I will be honest with you. We have a group of freelancers that are based here in Tel Aviv, where I live. We are sending each other kind of like project. Oh, I got this amazing project with this amazing company. Anybody wants to take it? And everybody's like, no, I can't take it. No, I can't take it. The truth is, like, all the good designers are busy and there's just so much work. And so I'm not sure about how it feels at the bottom, because also there's tons of work at the bottom as well. But I think that, like most things in life, most people are average, and they're not taking the time to work on themselves and improve themselves and try to work up their way to, improve themselves and grow. So you're here on this live stream today watching this video, so hopefully you're trying to grow and you're trying to improve and take the steps necessary to grow and move into this to the higher steps of the pyramid, where things are not oversaturated. You can always become better and create something unique and special about yourself. It takes time and effort. It's not easy. I didn't say it's easy, but it's totally possible. All right, next question from Safa. Do pricing differ for small companies and individuals and big companies and projects? The answer is, of course. Of course. Do you think Nike or whatever, or a global huge company is paying an agency like $1 million to redo their logo? And it's a logo. It's the same logo that somebody else can do, for $1,000. So yes, the bigger the companies are, the bigger the budget, and a lot of times the more complicated the projects are. But because, again, to convince Nike, the whole board and the whole team to change their logo, for example, is a very, very complicated thing. But yeah, obviously the pricing is different. People who have budgets and have complicated problems invest more money. As a beginner, is it acceptable to have menu list of prices? Yeah, you can have that. You can have that. The only thing here is that you're missing out on the opportunity to negotiate, because unless that pricing is high, okay, because it looks like it's off the shelf kind of a product that it's either take it or leave it. That's kind of the thing. So in my case, as I say, I would state that I have a minimum engagement price, but I don't say, which is, let's say, $10,000, but I don't state that all projects are $10,000. Now, you also have to understand that depending on the project, some projects are more complicated than others. A logo is not always the same complexity to make. A website is definitely not. Some websites are simple one-pagers, and one of them is like another website, it's 15 pages. It's difficult to put a price on a scope that is undetermined. You can do it when when you know the complexity. A business card design, let's say, usually it's very easy. So for those things, and like I showed you in the proposal example, for certain things there, like email template, for example, I have a fixed price, but that's because the complexity of that is fixed and it's not difficult. How can you raise your prices without losing your current and regular clients? You can't. I mean, or you can raise your prices to new clients, but not to your current customers. But otherwise, it's inconvenient, right? Because you've already set expectations with them, and now you're changing the rules of the relationship, and that might not be a good fit, because maybe they are the type of customers that pay $1,000 and not $2,000. So you might be losing them. And part of growing is losing customers. That's part of the process. You can't, work for 10 years and grow and increase your prices and still do work for clients that you did 10 years ago. You're not the same designer. Your skills are not the same. The work that you're doing is not the same. And their needs are, that's the truth, I think. All right, on and one done. I tried so many times where I gave a lot of sample work only to find out the clients are not serious about the job. What do you suggest? How much time do I need to spend on sample work? I don't really understand what does sample work mean. It means that you're working for free for them? I do not suggest that you work for free unless you're okay with working for free. Otherwise, I would get the client to commit. Now, there's different ways to commit. The first thing that you want them to commit is time. All right? You want to see that they're committing time, and that's by going on a call with you and talking with you and all of that kind of stuff. The second thing you want them to see commit is money. That's why you charge money before you're starting to work. You want to see that they're serious. If they're not willing to commit either time or money, you can say up front that they're probably not very serious. Mark, how did you solve the matter of cookies, privacy, and other? Do you talk about it in your course? Let me just share the service EU. I use this service. Let me share my screen so you can see it. I use this service called Ubanda. I don't know how to pronounce this. This is a really simple to integrate solution. It's really great. I think I have a video about this on my YouTube channel. Ritesh, do you have a time limit for the proposal or contract, like expiry date? So some people do that. Some people say this contract expires in 2 weeks or something like that. The truth is it depends on the situation, because if I have multiple clients that I'm giving proposals to, and it might be dangerous that all of them will accept at once, and then I'll overcommit myself or something like that. So in these cases, I might say something, look, I need to make a decision by next week because, my calendar is being booked, and I can't, if you're not signing this week, I can't guarantee availability. We'll have to let me know when you're ready and I'll see what I can do, but I can't guarantee availability. Sometimes I would put kind of in the terms like, something like, you need to make a decision by this point, otherwise I can't guarantee availability, or something like this. Vibor, what is your view of using DV WordPress as a tool for freelancing? That's legit. I personally like Webflow, but I know a lot of people who are doing well using DV and other tools. So yeah. Nicole, how much could junior designer charge hourly? I don't know if you've missed the part where I said it really depends on your situation and your alternatives, and and what the potential client that you're talking to needs, right? Because they will pay for how much the problem is urgent or based on their alternatives, right? And you are going to charge based on your alternative. So it really changes. There is no just fixed fee. Flo, hey Ron, do you have any advice on how to convince client to change to pay per value? For example, for a client that are used to get an invoice to work per hour. What I usually tell my clients is I'll tell them, look, paying per hour is not good for you because we are not aligned, okay? Paying per hour gives me the incentive to work slow, so I would take more hours and then you will pay me more money. But your incentive is to get good work fast. And so we are at a conflict here, and so paying per hour is not the best solution. So what would be the best solution is paying for how much this is worth to you and stating when do you need the work at, and I'll make sure that you get the work by this point with a price that's reasonable for you. And it's even better because you know upfront how much you're going to pay. With the hourly rate, there's always the risk of, oh, this took longer than I thought, and now, boom, you thought you're going to pay $1,000, now the bill is $5,000. That's a risk. So basically, that's how I explain why it's better for them. I don't call it per value, okay, but I do call it flat rate, which basically mean you know the price of the project upfront, and it's best for all sides. Let's go to another question. Leonard, as a beginner in Webflow, how to know if you are up to the project based on complexity of what client needs? Is it good to have developer for backup, or is Webflow enough? Good question. So first of all, I always think that it's good to be part of a community. Specifically for Webflow, there is really great community, both, the free community, there's the Webflow forums, there's the Webflow global group on Facebook. We have, for the Webflow Masterclass, we have our private community. So being part of the community and being able to ask people questions about the capabilities or how would they solve something, this is something very important. And also, if you don't feel confident, then have somebody for backup. But I hope that makes sense. Gabriel, as a freelancer, is fair to put a price for design and another price for development in WordPress? I'm not sure I understand why the word fair is there. I understand there's two different tasks here, design work and development work. You can charge for both of them on the same price, or you can say design costs this and development costs this, but it's two different tasks. And you can decide how you want to charge for them, but it's got nothing to do with fairness. It's like asking, does it fair that McDonald's charges for a burger and for a Coke and then charges for whatever, a meal? I don't know. I mean, it's got nothing to do with fairness. It's how you charge for your work. It's completely up to you, I think. All right, Ran Kremer, what are your thoughts on outsourcing? Right now, 100% of the job done by myself. I feel like it's time consuming doing everything with the client? Well, that's kind of an advanced question, which is, if you're trying to grow and scale. For a lot of years, many years, I did everything myself and I didn't outsource well up to 6 figures. On the recent years, I started to delegate some things that I realized that there's actually no value in me doing them because somebody else can do them just as fine. And I wanted to focus on the things where I bring my unique value, which was, in my case, it was working with the clients themselves and overseeing the project and not specifically aligning the text on page number 3. So, it's a good idea if that's your goal and if that's basically what you want to do. All right, last question for today. Ken, have you ever created an e-commerce site? Do you charge more for those? Yes, I've created only one, which is not a lot. Do I charge more for those? No. Why would I charge more for those? It's the value of the website is determined by the value of the website or the company or whatever. It's not like globally or categorically e-commerce is worth more or less than any other website. It really depends on the case. All right, everybody. Has had super fun time. I'll catch you on the next one where, again, we're going to talk about how to build all the systems for your freelance business and take it to full time. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you for being here on this live stream or watching this later. I love you a lot. If you're not already subscribed, of course subscribe. Of course, show some love, give some likes, do all that cool stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.